Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Rick here, and on today's video, we're going to talk to you about building an RV pole barn and answer all your questions, so stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back. So as I mentioned in the intro, today we're going to be answering your questions about building an RV pole barn. So if you've been following the channel, you have probably seen our series on building our pole barn that we have here behind us, as well as our video that we made on the full cost breakdown. Now, I was completely surprised at the amount of interest that video received over the last 2 months. To be honest, I think we're over 100,000 views on that one video alone. And it generated just a ton of questions. So what I want to do today is go ahead and answer those questions, because it seems like there's just a lot of people out there that are considering building something similar to what we've done here as a protection for your RV. So that's really what we're going to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and dive right on in. So first off, we had all types of questions, and this would be an hours-long video if I tried to answer every question that we got. So I tried to narrow it down to really probably the top 10, top 15 most frequently asked questions that we got. And we got a lot of great comments. You know, everybody was saying, hey, thanks for the video, very informative, very helpful, excellent content. So we're very appreciative of that. We also got some negative comments, which, you know, I have no problems with. People had a lot of questions saying, hey, you got ripped off, you spent way too much, or, you know, things like, hey, it must be nice to be able to spend that much money on an RV shelter. Well, you know, it is what it is. I mean, Lisa and I, we worked hard, saved our money so that we could afford to build this structure. And that's in a whole nother video. And if you're interested in those cost breakdowns, I'll put a link in here so you can check that video out as well. If you're interested in the entire build series, I'll put a link in here so you can watch that entire series from groundbreaking to site prep, to the construction, to the driveway and all that other stuff. So if you haven't seen those, I'll put a link in here for that as well. But again, a lot of great questions. I can't answer every one of them, but I'm going to do my very best to answer the most common questions that we got asked. So one of the first questions that we were asked was, well, why did we build a shelter? Why not just a gravel pad or concrete pad just to park the Airstream on? Well, that's pretty simple. We wanted to have overhead shelter protection for the Airstream. We wanted to be able to protect the roof from the sun's UV rays and damage. We also wanted to have protection in the event there was any type of a hailstorm or anything like that that passed through the area. It's just a way of protecting our investment in our Airstream and keeping it, you know, in better condition for many, many years to come. So that was a pretty simple, you know, answer. But I always use the analogy: if you had a $100,000 sports car, you're probably going to park it in a garage. Well, if you've got an expensive Airstream, you're probably going to want to park it under some type of shelter. The next question we got asked was, well, why did we decide on a pole barn construction as opposed to one of those galvanized steel kits? And it really just came down to, we wanted a more permanent structure. We thought also that the pole barn post and beam construction was just going to be more versatile and was going to give us a lot more options in the future if we ever decided we wanted to enclose the rest of the pole barn, which would be a relatively simple task. You just go ahead and finish framing it out, drop the sides down, and then add on some garage doors on the front and back if we wanted to. But for us, pole barn was the better option for us for the long run. So that question really leads us into the next question that we got is, well, why didn't we close it in? Well, it was really just a personal preference. We just like the openness, being able to see the Airstream. We like the ability to get in and out. And also, if somebody came to visit us, we could use it as a guest house. And we didn't want them to feel like they were living in a garage. So we left it open so they could then have access to the backyard, we're going to put in a fire pit and so forth and so on. Now, that doesn't mean in the future that we may not close it in. We may decide that that's a better option. Or if we were to ever sell this property and a future owner wanted to enclose this, it would be something that they could do in the future and turn that into a shop if they wanted to. But for us, it was just a personal choice. We just like the aesthetics, the looks, and the versatility of having the building open as opposed to fully enclosed. Moving on to the next question, we did have several people ask us, did we estimate what it would cost to enclose the building? And honestly, we did not. It really wasn't something that we wanted to waste our time and energy on at this moment in time. But, you know, talking with the builder, and just my own knowledge and research, it would be relatively inexpensive to enclose the sides. You would just have to finish framing it out and drop the steel sides down on both sides of the structure. Now, if we wanted to go ahead and put overhead garage doors in, then the price is going to start going up substantially. That's just a lot more material and labor to go ahead and do that. But no, we did not get an estimate on that. But and even if we did, those prices are going to change, with inflation and other things, other factors in the market over time. So it wouldn't really do us any good to have those estimates and costs right now. So another question we got from a viewer in Wisconsin was asking about snow loads. And the reason why he was asking is because if you can see here behind me, our trusses are spaced 12 foot apart. Well, because we live in South Carolina, snow's not an issue. So building codes don't require that this structure here in South Carolina be rated to handle any type of snow load. Depending on where you live, if you live in northern states and you get quite a bit of snowfall.
All right, keep your eyes on the screen now. Too much snow flattens this Boy Scout dining hall in northern Wisconsin.
Your building codes are going to be different, and you're likely going to have trusses probably every few feet, 2, 3 feet, 4 feet, or whatever that requirement is. But here in South Carolina, it's not required. Another question that we got from a viewer, well, actually, I have several viewers, was did we worry about birds nesting or bird poop falling on our Airstream? And it wasn't really something that we had considered when we were building the shelter. But now that they brought it up, that is something that I may have to consider, and I've done a little bit of research on that, and I had a lot of other viewers suggest getting some of those plastic snakes that you can put up there on the trusses, or some of those owl decoys. Those would help to prevent birds from nesting in there. Do I expect birds to get in there? Possibly, but hopefully not too many that I can't manage and keep them out of the pole barn. Next question I have here is, why wasn't wire mesh used when they poured the concrete? And I was kind of curious about that myself, and I'd actually talked with the contractor about that. Yes, we could have put wire mesh down, but that would have been an additional expense. The alternative was to use fiber reinforced concrete, and that's what we chose to do. In the mixing of the concrete, they add a bag of fibers that you mix in with the concrete at a certain ratio, and it just gets mixed in. So then when you pour the concrete, those fibers are all throughout the concrete, and it creates a fiber mesh reinforcement within the concrete to help strengthen it and also to help resist cracks and so forth. So that was a great question. Had a lot of folks also ask, well, why didn't they use rebar? Well, rebar isn't recommended for 4-inch concrete slabs. If anything, it would have been wire mesh. But like I said, we chose to go with the fiber reinforced concrete. Save a little bit of money and just different technology. Don't have to worry about it rusting like you do with wire mesh. All right, another question that we got asked quite a bit was, why did you not put in a septic system or a water hydrant out here at the pole barn? And that's for a couple of reasons. First off, just the expense of putting in a separate septic system would have just been cost prohibitive. Now, if we were planning on living in our Airstream while it was parked here on the property, then yes, we would have done that. But we do already have a home on this property that is already on a septic system, and I actually have access to that septic system, very similar to an RV dump that you find at an RV park. So if I need to, I can go ahead and empty out the gray and black tanks into a little portable septic trolley and take it over to that dump access point on my property and empty out the tanks that way. As far as a water hydrant, we do have a hydrant nearby. I just have to run a hose, 50, 100-foot hose, and I can fill up the fresh water tank, and then we can have water on the Airstream as well. Again, it just, because we aren't living in it full time, it just really didn't make sense to go ahead and add those expenses into this build if it's only going to be used on the occasion that somebody would come and visit. We wanted to have them go ahead and stay out here as a guest house. So another pretty common question we got asked was, did you bring out 2 phases so you could have 50 amp service if needed someday? So if you can see here behind me, yes, we did bring out 2 phases. We have a 100 amp panel as well as a 30 amp RV outlet installed, as well as we have multiple 20 amp outlets throughout the pole barn. What we did was we ran a line from our main panel on the property out here that can handle up to 100 amps. And that allowed us to, in the future, if we ever wanted to expand the electrical, or if we ever enclosed this in and turned it into a shop, and I wanted to put a welder or some other equipment out here that was going to require a lot of electricity, that would give us that ability to have plenty of power out here in the building. So that answers that question. Well, so I kind of answered the second question. It says, why did you install a 100 amp panel? Isn't that overkill? Well, like I just said, that just gives us that ability to expand if we need to any of our electrical requirements in the future. So one of the comments that I probably got beat up the most about in the build video was, why didn't you rent a trencher to bury the electrical lines? Well, and I had a lot of people asking me about that as well. We had considered that. Well, first we had considered having a contractor do it, but then when they gave us the price quote of $1,000 to $1,400, I like, there's no way I'm going to spend that much money just for a trench. That didn't include material or anything. So my next thought was, well, I'll go and rent a ditch witch and trench it myself. But as I started kind of looking at the path of how I was going to trench the property to get the electrical run out here to the pole barn, I started to realize I was going to have to dig around electric lines that were coming to the property, gas lines that were on the property, septic lines that were on the property, water lines that were on the property. And my concern was, using a ditch witch, I was going to end up causing more damage to those other utilities than it would be just to dig it by hand. So unfortunately, because of where that line needed to be run, it was just not easier for sure, but it was just, I think in my choice, just a better decision to dig it by hand. Fortunately for us, the soil's very sandy, so it wasn't necessarily too difficult. I mean, it did take a good day to dig the trench and a good day to fill the trench back in. But I probably would have spent a lot more time and money repairing busted water lines, septic lines, gas lines, if I would have used a ditch witch. So, that's the reason why we didn't rent a piece of equipment to get the work done quicker. So another viewer asked, why didn't you buy a chainsaw and cut down the trees yourself and use the chainsaw for cleanup later? Well, so to answer that question, we already have a chainsaw, and yes, I could have cut down the trees myself, but the challenge would have been then it's been more time consuming. Then I would have had to have chopped up the wood and then hauled it off. I even had another viewer say, well, why don't you use the wood for a fireplace or something like that? Well, like I said, we live in South Carolina, and fireplaces really aren't a thing here. It doesn't really get that cold, so there's not a big demand for firewood or the use of firewood. So it really just kind of came down to cost-benefit estimate, and for me, at $375 to have a tree removed and hauled off, and then the hole covered up by my contractor was well worth the cost to have that done and not do it myself. You just have to know kind of your limits of what you think you're capable of doing. And for me, I just felt more comfortable, and the price was right to go ahead and have that done by a professional. Okay, so the last question that I want to answer is from a viewer. It says, do you have any regrets, and would you change anything? So, I've actually thought about this for quite a while. We've had this structure built for several months now, and I can honestly say I don't have any regrets. I think we made all the right choices so far, but, like I said, we've only been using it for the past, I guess, 4 or 5 months. Now, in a year or two from now, will I have second thoughts? I don't know. I can't predict the future, but currently right now, I think as far as the size goes, I think we chose the right size. I would absolutely do the concrete. The other day I was rotating the tires on the Airstream, and it was just so easy to get out there with a floor jack up the trailer, get underneath there, rotate the tires, do maintenance on the Airstream without crawling around in the dirt. So concrete is an absolute positive. The electrical, I wouldn't have changed any of that. Putting in the back driveway to allow us easy pull in and pull through, pull out type capability would not change any of that as well. So yeah, I don't think we have any regrets. So I do want to leave you with, I don't want to call it a pro tip because I'm not a pro, but just a tip for anybody that's considering building something similar to what we've done here. And that is, first off, do your research. Know kind of what is available to you out there, what type of building and construction concepts or kits there are out there. Also, you really have to be honest and determine what your needs are, not so much necessarily what your wants are, but what are your minimal needs. I would also tell you to get as many estimates as possible. You're going to get a wide range of cost estimates from multiple contractors or subcontractors, so get as many as you can. And then when you get those estimates, ask them for references. The contractor we ended up going with did give us some references, and I was able to go and meet with another owner and talk with them about their experience with that builder. And that's really what sold me on why I chose that builder, is because of the service and the quality of work that I was expecting to get as well. And then the last thing, and probably the most obvious, is you just have to be honest and set yourself a budget and kind of stay within that budget as much as you can, but also have some money set aside because you will most likely go over that budget in some area. Builds never go exactly as what is expected, and in our case and situation, we added on a few extra things that we wanted to have done as the build was going on. So that's just kind of a tip from a guy that just had this done, and just want to share that with you as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up. Hopefully these Q&As, these frequently asked question answers were helpful for you if you're considering building an RV pole barn for your RV. Also, if you're interested in other information, check out our website. It's got a lot of great information on RV travel, RV retirement, RV destinations, RV maintenance and repair, and so forth. And if you're interested in staying connected, you can also sign up for our newsletter. But other than that, guys, if you have any questions or comments, I'll do my very best to answer them. You can leave those in the comment section below. If you haven't already considered subscribing, I would ask that you do that. We'd love to have you follow along with our journeys. And if we don't hear from you, hopefully we'll see you down the road.